Hello fellow research enthusiasts. Last week I was sitting with one of my PhD students watching them stare hopelessly at their overwhelming to-do list. Their expression was one that I've seen countless of times before, a mixture of frustration, guilt and resignation. Does this sound familiar? On Monday morning you craft the perfect to-do list. By Wednesday, the same to-do list has morphed into a monument of your perceived inadequacies, with more items added than ticked off. By Friday, you chuck the to-do list, convincing yourself that to-do lists just aren't for people like you or for complex academic tasks. I get you, I promise I do. I've seen this in my own life and in the postgraduate students that I supervise lives as well. But the truth is, the problem is not with the to-do list themselves. The problem is with the way we conceptualize and implement them. A lot of research has shown that to-do lists can be one of our most powerful productivity tools because we are externalizing that cognitive load into an organized list that we can just follow step by step. But why isn't it so easy to do in real life? This video is going to go through 7 to-do list myths and see how we can debunk these myths and how we can turn it around to serve us and our productivity needs. The first myth is that to-do lists are unhelpful because they contain large, vague tasks. Many researchers create lists with items like write literature review or analyze data, and then wonder why they feel paralyzed when approaching their work. Research in goal-setting theory shows that vague goals significantly reduce our likelihood of action. The solution is what psychologists call task decomposition and specificity. Break down complex research tasks into discrete actionable steps with clear completion criteria. Studies show that specific challenging goals lead to higher performance than vague do your best objectives. Let me give you a practical example. Instead of writing Write Methodology section, decompose it into Review 3 methodologically similar papers for structure, 30 minutes. Draft outline of methodology with key subheadings, 45 minutes. Write participant selection subsection, 60 minutes. You get the idea. I had a PhD student who was struggling with her qualitative analysis chapter. She kept putting code interview data on her list day after day, feeling increasingly guilty. When we broke this down into code first 10 minutes of interview 1 using initial coding framework, suddenly it became manageable. She completed the tasks the same day, and that created momentum for the next chunk. This approach aligns with what psychologists call proximal goals, achievable near-term objectives that build momentum towards larger aims. Now, let's move on to the second myth. Myth number 2 is that to-do lists cause overwhelm. Yes, maybe, but they are only overwhelming when they contain too many items. The cognitive load theory developed by Sweller explains why lengthy lists impair decision-making. Our working memory has limited capacity when confronted with too many choices. We experience cognitive overload as a result. A particular challenge in research contexts where tasks already demand significant mental resources. The solution is constraint and prioritization frameworks. So limit your daily task list to 3 to 5 significant items and use evidence-based prioritization frameworks. One framework I recommend is the Eisenhower matrix, where you organize tasks by importance and urgency. Another is the Moscow method, must-dos, should-dos, could-dos and won't-dos. And don't forget the Pareto principle, which reminds us that roughly 80% of our outcomes come from 20% of the efforts we put in. So now ask yourself, how many items are typically on your daily research to-do list? If it's more than 5, consider how you might consolidate or prioritize. Our third myth is that to-do lists are rigid and inflexible. Well, the truth is that to-do lists are only as rigid as the operator. So be prepared to adapt when needed. By adapting, I not only refer to what you put on the list, but also how you allocate your time. The unpredictable nature of research, unexpected findings, equipment failures, or promising tangential questions can make rigid to-do lists feel constraining rather than helpful. The solution is what I call adaptive scheduling with buffer blocks. Time management research suggests that building flexibility into planning improves both productivity and well-being. I recommend researchers implement the 30% buffer rule, where they schedule only 70% of the available time, leaving 30% for adapting to unexpected developments. For example, in an 8-hour research day, plan approximately 5.5 hours for specific tasks, especially when it comes to your writing, and you reserve 2.5 hours for contingencies, follow-up work, or pursuing unexpected insights. One of my colleagues was working on a literature review when she discovered an unexpected connection between two theoretical frameworks. Because she had built in buffer time into her schedule, she was able to pursue this insight immediately, and that detour led to one of the most original contributions to her thesis, something that wouldn't have happened with a rigid to-do list approach. Remember, research is inherently creative and often non-linear. Your task management system should accommodate this reality. The fourth myth is that to-do lists lead to feelings of failure. The Zeigarnik effect, our tendency to remember uncompleted tasks more vividly than completed ones, explains why unfinished to-do list items linger uncomfortably in our minds. This effect can be particularly demoralizing for academics whose work involves significant uncertainty and long project timelines. The solution is process-oriented accomplishment tracking. This gives you a shift from a purely outcome-based approach to one that acknowledges effort and process. I encourage my postgraduate students to use a progress, not perfection documentation approach, where they record both completed and meaningful progress on ongoing tasks. They maintain a progress log alongside their to-do list, and they celebrate productive struggles where difficult problems were thoughtfully addressed, even if not resolved. One systematic review I supervised last year took longer than anticipated, but the principal investigator maintained momentum by tracking insight milestones, rather than just the completed tasks. For example, she noted identified potential methodological inconsistency across 3 key studies, and that was a valuable insight, even though it created more work and rather than being able to tick off a task. This shift in mindset from seeing your to-do list as a task master to viewing it as a progress tracker can really change your relationship with productivity. Another aspect that we really need to remember is how reasonable is the number of to-do list items that you put on your list. If you are going to put too many to-do list items on a daily list, you are definitely not going to complete them. So it's important to carefully consider how long a task takes, and we know that things tend to take longer than planned, and to put a reasonable number of to-dos based on your available time and capacity on that day on your to-do list. Myth number 5 is that to-do lists don't reflect the importance and urgency of tasks. While that's true, standard to-do lists typically fail to distinguish between these tasks, specifically the tasks that advance core research objectives and those that merely feel urgent but contribute little to meaningful outcomes. The Eisenhower matrix is perfect for highlighting important and urgent tasks. One of my doctoral students color-coded her tasks, and she used a modified Eisenhower matrix to do this. She color-coded it as red, critical research path tasks, directly advanced primary findings. Then orange was time-sensitive tasks, but not core to this research tasks. Green was important for research quality, but not time-sensitive. And then she had blue, which was administrative and procedural necessities. So this system helped her immediately see that while responding to 15 administrative emails felt urgent, finalizing her experimental design was both important and time-sensitive. The visual cue helped her to make better decisions about where to invest her limited time and energy. The sixth myth is that to-do lists encourage completing easy tasks first for a quick dopamine rush. It may be true, but even for this one there's a solution. The satisfaction of ticking off simple tasks can distract researchers from deeper, more impactful work, what some call the path of least resistance. This is particularly problematic in academia, where our most valuable contributions typically emerge from sustained engagement with complex problems. The first solution is to eat that frog, and it lies in the quote of Mark Twain, who said, "If it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first." So start with that daunting, very important task. The second solution is in energy management. Structure your to-do list to align with your cognitive resources throughout the day. Research suggests that most people experience their peak analytical capabilities within 2 to 4 hours of waking. Yet many researchers squander this prime cognitive window on emails and administrative tasks. Try cognitive aligned scheduling. Identify your peak cognitive hours through self-observation. Then reserve these hours exclusively for complex analytical and creative research tasks. Schedule administrative or routine tasks during the valley periods. The most important thing here is that when you align your most demanding tasks with your period of peak cognitive function, you need less time to accomplish more meaningful work. Our final myth is that to-do lists hinder intrinsic motivation. So some argue that externalized task management reduces self-determination and intrinsic motivation, qualities which is essential for sustained research excellence. But research on self-determination theory by Ryan and Deci suggests that activities supporting autonomy, competence, and relatedness enhance intrinsic motivation rather than diminishing it. And this means you need to transform your to-do list from a mechanical checklist into something more meaningful that explicitly connect your tasks to your larger purpose or vision. By the way, for a lovely blog post on how to create your vision statement for your research, have a look in the description box below this video to a link and download the vision creating checklist and template to help you create your own vision. So firstly, link each task to your research questions and your research vision. Include a brief purpose statement behind each of the major tasks. Group tasks by research value rather than by project or deadline. One particularly effective approach is the contribution-focused task framing method. Rather than simply run statistical analysis on data set on your to-do list, reframe it as identify patterns in participant responses that could explain the anomaly in previous findings. Doesn't that sound much more purposeful? And this is only a subtle shift, but it really transforms the task from an obligation to more of an intellectual investigation, which is connected to your core purpose and your vision as a researcher. And it reminds us that we are not just checking boxes, we are creating new knowledge. Now that we debunked these myths, let me share 2 immediately applicable techniques explicitly tailored for academic contexts. First, the next session startup technique. At the end of each research session, take 2 minutes to create a detailed entry plan for your next session. List the exact files, the references or analyses that you'll begin with to eliminate any friction and decision fatigue that often leads to procrastination. Use a standard template with prompts such as first file to open, key questions to address, expected challenges, resources needed. In this way, you'll be set up for success because the next time when your next research session comes along, you won't be fiddling for 15 minutes trying to figure out what you need to do. You can just jump in and immediately get going. Secondly, make each item worth its while. To-do lists need to be the ultimate product of a natural output based on your research vision statement and your goal-setting process. And what ends up on your to-do list should be based on thoughtful prioritization and not just what comes first to mind. In order to put a vision statement and set that up, to learn more about goal setting and prioritization, I've left links in the description box below this video to these 3 very valuable guides in the Research Mastermind's Life in Academia blog. Now for a few quick answers to common questions. The first is, how do I handle collaborative research tasks on my to-do list? For tasks that require input or action from colleagues, create a separate collaboration tracking section on your list. Include specific waiting for items with follow-up dates to ensure progress doesn't stall because of dependencies. Use a simple notation system, W for waiting, F for follow-up, D for delegated items. Next question. How should I manage long-term research projects on our daily to-do lists? Use a project stepping stones approach. Identify the next meaningful increment for each major project and include only that increment on your daily list. Maintain a separate project roadmap document with the full sequence of milestones for reference. Third question. Should I use a digital or paper-based to-do list for research work? Well, evidence suggests that the medium matters less than the consistency and accessibility. Digital tools offer better integration with other software systems, while paper provides fewer distractions and better support for spatial thinking. Many successful researchers employed a hybrid approach, where they use both digital tools and paper-based tools. So it's up to you. Fourth question. How do I prevent constant task migration, moving uncompleted items forward? Implement a 3 strikes rule. If a task migrates forward 3 times, it requires intervention. It either needs to be broken down further, or maybe a dedicated time needs to be scheduled, it may be needed to be delegated, or acknowledge that it's actually not an important priority and decide if you can remove it entirely. By externalizing the administrative and cognitive load of remembering tasks, we liberate our mental resources for the creative and analytical thinking that advances knowledge. I hope that you'll take from this discussion the key insight that to-do lists should serve our research needs and not constrain it. It can, when properly implemented, using these evidence-based approaches, really turn into something that is less about checking boxes, but more about creating that structure that enables intellectual exploration and discovery. So try these techniques out, adapt them to your own system, see what works. And one more thing, if you are a PhD student, come and accelerate your success. If you are passionate about research and determined to excel, join our exclusive membership community for expert content, a supportive network, and tools to boost your productivity and impact. Thrive in your academic journey, so join today. Find a link in the description box below this video. Until next time, here's to your research success.
If you found this video helpful, smash the like button. For more useful tips to boost your research experience, subscribe to my channel by clicking the subscribe button below this video. And while you're at it, hit the bell so that you get notified whenever I produce a new video. If you need a solution to a challenge not yet covered on my channel, leave a comment in the box below. See you in the next video.